Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power Tea Talk. From the Cathedral of Neyland Stadium to the fanatical landscape of college sports, we're breaking down the plays, the players, and the pride of the Southland. I'm Daniel, your host, here with my comrade and co-host, Zach. Grab your orange and white. Let's run through the tea. It's time to give our all for Tennessee. This is Power Tea Talk.
Powered by Riverside.
I was sitting there watching some football this weekend. I forget what game it was. It might have been the end of that Indiana-Penn State game or towards the end of it. And kind of like the intrigue was up. You know, we're switching between 17 different apps so we can watch like certain quarters of football games, it feels like. But I did look over at my wife and say, you know, it's kind of nice not to just sit here and worry about what Tennessee's result is going to be today. I kind of needed a weekend of like exciting football, but that is not our season on the line in any way.
This has been a staple of Tennessee and a lot of SEC teams for a long time, where you have a November bye week and then you have a November bye game where for about 2-3 weeks almost, you're thinking like not really caring about the results as much as you normally do. That's going to go away next year with the 9th SEC game coming in. But it is kind of nice. I like having the two buys. And I know next year with how the schedule works, they're only going to have one. I think the two buys are great. I think it's nice that it extends the season a little bit. I think it's good for the players, the coaches. It's going to be interesting. Tennessee basically cost themselves the playoff. There's a 5% chance if they get in, although the committee made sure it was 1% with some of their rankings, which we'll get to later. But it's going to be interesting how they respond against a New Mexico State team that's 3-6, not very good, not really going anywhere, and how they will bounce back from a very disappointing loss.
It's the ultimate get-right game. I had a buddy who's a Miami fan who was texting me, and we're going to do our fair share of this, was texting me, you know, talking about the logic or lack thereof of some of the playoff rankings. And this wasn't even from a like Miami should be in perspective. He was just like, this don't make any sense. And we went back and forth a little bit on the silliness. And then I just said, luckily we don't have to worry about it. Like I don't have to stress necessarily about, you know, the exact 2.5 results we need to go a certain direction. And that's a bummer in some ways, but kind of like the coast is clear to enjoy some really good football heading towards Thanksgiving, NFL cranking up with like weird slates, but still cranking up. And so I don't know, it was kind of nice in a way to just say, you know what, let's sit back and see what kind of chaos can happen. And then like, we've talked about this a little bit recently, you and I, about like college football is in this tweener place where it's okay that you can lose a game and still win the title. Like I think we're all okay with that. We see it in the NFL all the time, no problem. But we are in this weird tweener place where like the best example I can think of is like Georgia and Georgia Tech are like careening towards each other. But if certain results go certain ways, it actually doesn't matter.
Right.
And so like this build up to post Thanksgiving. Yes. Like just drop in, put it out there in the open.
Which I think was more a critique on college football than actual critique on the game itself. I think he was trying to, and maybe a little dig at Notre Dame as well. Like, hey, just because you play these 5 ACC games, we don't consider you us, right? We don't consider you an ACC member or whatever. So I think that was a little more tongue-in-cheek than some people took it. But he brought up a point. Like, that Georgia Tech game, it's going to be weird because both teams could be being like, we're going to be in our conference title game. Do we play do we play a guy who might be injured? Do we show new stuff on film? Like it's a new world. Like, and 20 years ago, this would be unconscious to think of that with good old fashioned hate, where it's like, or Pittsburgh, like, hey, top 10 Notre Dame's coming to town, but now it's like, if we win our conference, what's it matter? We're in the
And
playoff.
I think you do have, and you mentioning the schedule ramping up next year made me think of it too. It almost needs to go that direction a little bit. It needs to be, losing the other bye notwithstanding, for these people who are they're developing players, they're young players. That's a heck of a ramp up to that type of season. And is honestly not the best for development. But from a how the season lays out perspective, we need that extra game to actually make it like a little more towards, oh yeah, it actually is okay that they dropped another one, instead of it being like, we're at this point now where you can lose every single game that's slightly tougher matters and win all the easy ones and be okay. And
Right.
certain rosters are just always going to be capable of that. And I think about like Ohio State and Michigan staring each other down right now. We'll see if they both get there unscathed, but they're just talenting their way there. And then that game, it definitely matters, but certain results would lead it to just be like, oh, well, we'll see you again in a couple weeks if we match up, which is so strange.
Also, too, I think a lot of the out of conference in-state rivalries, Georgia Tech, Clemson, South Carolina, Florida State, Louisville, Kentucky, like those type of games are losing a little bit of luster, which I think is bad for the sport, which none of the people in charge care. But, I do.
Who could have predicted this?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering, as we get to the 9th game, if some of those games are going to be moved to September, where it starts saying like, hey, we want every conference game we can get to matter on the last week, create almost like a week 18 game 162 type of idea. So I still wonder if we'll ever get back to if this will ever become the new normal. I don't know yet. It's still daunting to me that Miami can finish like first or like 14th in the ACC, and we're second weekend in November upcoming. But I mean, this is just how it goes. This is what this is what the big people signed up for.
We are mere peons in this scheme.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are
going to
do
the podcast.
Honestly, 2 dudes with a podcast, and unfortunately, the ability to think about some of the logic of some of these things. I wish I could turn that off sometimes. The step one in heading out of the bye week is we're going to review some game scores. We're going to look at kind of recent changes and whether it passes the sniff test on where we thought the team would be, where it feels like the team is compared to our ratings. Do you want to start on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball?
I think we should start on the defense. We always start on offense.
Start on the defense. It's been kind of the bugaboo a little bit. Honestly, I was looking at this earlier today, middle of the day, and this is like kind of where I land summary wise. When we did our first check-in right before the first bye, the defense rating was like low 80s. And we kind of knew why. We traced why in that episode. The game right before that and kind of how we felt about Mississippi State swung our grades in terms of who had the defense graded higher, but they were really close. Now, the update has our defense sitting, yours is in the 70s, mine's in the 80s, just the averages. And then that 4-game stretch that we just went through, we were 74 and 76 respectively. And honestly, we could probably both argue that it could be a tiny bit lower, considering that's the story of the season. I mean, not to make it too simplistic, but that's the story of the season, that 4-game stretch.
I think my total average for the season was a 78.7, 79. And I'm like, that's too high. And part of that is there's an ETSU caveat in there where it does drop at a couple points, where ETSU, sure, I think, was like a 93. So if you like took that out and then you just did like the SEC or like the Power 4 averages, it would be lower. But I can't really say like, oh, you're almost a B when you're 128th in success rate, you're 118th in EPA per play, your success rate against the run's 125, your success rate against the pass is 120. I can't really defend that. So the only two things Tennessee's above 50 percentile is their ability to limit rush explosives, that's 66%, and average third down distance, which doesn't matter because they're a bottom 15 third down defense. So
I
it
didn't
doesn't
expect you to say that, and yes. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Like,
so it doesn't matter. Now, here's the weird thing. Technically, I don't think you can say the defense has cost you a game.
no. Which makes absolutely no sense.
It doesn't, because against Georgia, yeah, they gave up 38 in regulation. Offense had a chance to win with a kick. They screwed up the end and Gilbert missed. Alabama, there's a massive 14-point swing in there, which I think we both agree, if it's 14-16, not 23-7, that game flow completely changes. And then you're basically in the red zone up 7-0. Your defense has gotten you a stop, a 3-and-out, and it should be 10-0 at minimum. And there's a 14-point swing in that game. So if you take out the two 14-point swings and one kick, it's probably a one-loss team, right? Like, let's give them one of the Alabama or Oklahoma games and then give them the Georgia win. So technically the defense has actually not fully cost you a game, but in the games they've won, they've been terrible.
They've been terrible. And like
Arkansas, Kentucky, I mean, Mississippi State, they were good.
They were good, but they still got, now that we've seen more results from Mississippi State, I don't know how good they were.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we thought like Mississippi State might be actually a legitimately good offense, and they're like Power 4 fine, but they're not SEC fine. Right. So it's weird. I just don't, it's an odd team. I will say a couple things. If they could just get some third down stops or force more field goals, I wouldn't really care about the overall numbers.
Yeah.
But they can't. Like, they just don't do it unless it's Oklahoma and their kicker hits 50 yarders. Whatever. I'm still mad about it. And the other thing is, this is the worst Heupel tackling team by, I would say, a pretty decent margin. And the part of that really irks me is it's not getting better. How many plays have we seen a dump off that should result in a 3rd and 7, get a first down because a safety missed a tackle or a linebacker didn't play right? I mean, their assignment, like the easy stuff, like playing your assignment right, tackling, those kind of things, they're awful at. It's not just a talent thing. So it's got to be lower. Like, I would probably put it more towards like a 73 overall, which is not a D. It's a low C minus. You could make a case it should be lower than 70 because of how bad the numbers are. But they create enough havoc and create enough turnovers and stuff that I'm willing to at least give them a low C. But like I said, it's weird because they technically have not cost you a game. They just have been bad.
They've just been bad. They've just been straight up bad. And we talked about it last podcast, but like, are you going to step up and go the other direction at all? Or is it just going to stay ugly towards the end of the season? Yeah, I don't know. I am completely fine giving that 5 or 10% curve on the grade for maybe a little bit of the amount of turnover they had, but really the lack of two of the best corners in the conference. But that only takes you so far. I mean, that's a very important thing to note. And I mean, there are even
and Colton Hood's been awesome.
He's been great. And so like there was like a dream world where, you know, we dreamed on it preseason of what it could look like, or dreamed on it early on. But as soon as if you would have told us like, you're not getting any Dramad, you're not getting any Ricky, and you're really not getting any Boot Carter, we would have been like, oh, I don't want to think about that. Because you took away the 3 playmakers, and then you're hoping, again, we had some faith in Hood, but then you're hoping that Turrentine and Farouk become playmakers. And honestly, to his credit, Farouk has done it here and there, but he's kind of the only one.
The other part of it is it's such a drastic drop off from last year. It's almost jarring, and I get it. They lost a lot, and when you think about, You add in they lose Gibson and McCoy, their 2 starting corners, and then you add the fact that Boo Carter went from freshman All-American type of player to portaling. It, okay, drop off expected, but they've catered. I mean, they've cratered. Excuse me, they've cratered. I mean, they're not good at anything. Like, other than sack percentage, which I think they're still top 20 in. They don't do anything well other than getting to the quarterback. And part of the issue with there is that they can get to the quarterback, but against the really good teams, they've struggled some.
And it doesn't matter if we get the offense off schedule because we don't tackle.
And they're so bad on third down.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's great if you get a sack on 2nd and 4 to make it 3rd and 10, but a lot of times it hasn't mattered. Or they give up 14 on a 3rd and 16, the team goes for it like Georgia did multiple times. It's just becomes pointless almost. And I think it's fair to say the fact that they have not gotten better on the spine of the defense, that they can't find a defensive tackle that can eat gaps, and they can't find a linebacker outside of Carter that can consistently play, although Spillman has gotten better the last month. And the safeties, good God. It's disappointing. And I know people blame the scheme, and I think that's a small part of it. You can be conservative when you have the right players. They don't have the right players to play conservative, but they tried against Georgia. They sent the house. They blitzed Gunner 50% of his dropbacks that game, and they still got carved up.
Yeah.
He just ate. And it's not like Gunner. I think that's probably Gunner's best statistical game of the year.
Definitely is, especially if you don't account for like scrambling and things like that.
Right. So Banks, how he structures his defense is more, if he does not have an elite defensive line, they are always going to give up yards, which is fine because of our offense. But you got to get off third down. You got to turn red zone opportunities into field goals, not touchdowns. You've got to be able to force 3rd and 9s, not 3rd and 4s, right? Like those type of things, and they just haven't put it together. And I don't even think the talent level's not great defensively. I don't think it's a nightmare. I think it's better than this, though. So I don't know what the disconnect is. It'll be really interesting to see what they do in the offseason because Heupel doesn't fire guys. So Gardner's not losing his job. Banks is coming back. So it'll be interesting.
I was going to say, it's the only game all year Gunner's gone over 300 yards.
Okay. Then
he lit up Ole Miss. He had a great game against Ole Miss, but it's the only game all year he's gone over 300 yards and 75% completion, by the way. Yeah, for like a green guy in Neyland. It's interesting because I think about like how many pros are there on this offense or on this defense. Sorry. How many pros are there? And I mean, definitely 3.
Josephs, Carter, and Hood will play NFL snaps.
West will play NFL snaps too.
And West. So that's 4.
Other than that, I mean, Ricky and Jamont might, but they're not playing.
They've played 15 combined snaps.
Yeah. And so, like, if you think about just how many dudes do we have back there, not a ton.
And you could say Ross and Herring, but
that's a lot of
Herring's
projection.
A junior. I mean, yeah. Herring's a junior. Like, next year's his last year. Like, I keep thinking, like, oh, Herring's young. And it's like, oh, wait, he's got one more year after this year, you know?
And I love those guys, but it's like, just when you think about, like, what it looks like compared to defenses that really do throw talent out there. And the reason I say that is I'm not crapping on the roster completely, but I'm actually one who I'm pretty stubbornly, like, the solution is not always to go portaling like crazy for guys, but I really don't see how you don't try to do that at the safety spots and some of the spine of the defense.
Right. You got to do it at safety and linebacker. There's a world where you can say, we're going to trust Gardner.
Yes.
And we'll go from there. I think that's perfectly fine. I cannot imagine, and I don't think Carter's going to go pro. And Carter and West are like day 3 NFL guys. We're not exactly talking about, first round picks there. So if Carter comes back, like you got, like, yeah, you can keep Spillman. That's fine. We know what Perlotti really looks like. But I can't. They've got to revamp the secondary completely, especially if Hood's going to go pro, which I would imagine he's going to. So they're going to have to completely revamp that secondary. I mean, McMurray's a senior, Turrentine's a senior, which Turrentine's probably addition by subtraction. But I mean, Farouk's probably the only starter I would pencil in next year coming back, and he might be the worst one.
Well,
So
and I'll say this: we're thinking about it this way now. I don't think we're going to be way more positive after the Vandy game. That's not predicting a Vandy loss, but that's predicting a Vandy shootout. They're going to find space all over the place when we play them.
Right. Well, it's not like the bye week Tennessee got better, the first one. It's not like the last 2 drives they gave up were pretty bad. They held Arkansas in check to 17, but Arkansas ran up and down the field. They just kind of shot themselves in the field a couple of times. Yeah. So I don't think the bye week's going to magically fix things. Now, after watching Florida, I think they're probably going to be fine offensively or defensively in that game. I know it still scares you. I know. I see that look on your face.
I can't admit that.
But against Vanderbilt, Pavi is going to put up numbers.
We don't have a single person who can guard Stowers.
No.
So I'm just like, on that.
You have a better chance pulling Al Wilson out of Georgia,
honestly,
to guard Stowers than anyone
come on down
on this team.
And so it's just going to be interesting. And, the truth kind of always lies in the middle somewhere. We weren't going to be as good again as we were last year. But this also means that we can probably expect some regression in the correct direction heading into next year. That's very flimsy. That's not something you want to be hoping for. But part of me thinks there's no way it's going to be this bad on matchup downs again. Now, we've been proven wrong before on that. And so, I don't know. I just think that's, as we do our off-season episodes, as we keep track of things amidst all the whirlwind of stuff, that's going to be a very interesting thing to track. And
this is probably more an end-of-year question. I'm going to assume Banks is back next year. Would you say that's a safe assumption?
I think so, barring just absolute craziness in the carousel. I have no idea on that.
I mean, maybe a team gives a shot at him, but he's 54.
Or
it's either now or never if he wants to be a head coach.
Somebody gets a job somewhere and goes and handpicks him as the defensive coordinator because they know each other, something like that we're just not thinking about.
Like Franklin.
Sure.
If Franklin takes the Arkansas job and he wants to reunite with him. I mean, that's a good
they'll
point.
have money, build your staff. They'll have money to recruit, so they won't need Banks to do it. I could totally see that, actually.
Right. Now, the offensive grades
were
very interesting for me because I came out low. I'm at an 87 for the season, and I think that's directly correlated to just turnovers.
I'm at an 85, which is I feel like I've been singing praises.
And you look at the numbers for Tennessee. I mean, they're 12th in success rate. They're 17th in EPA per play. They're 15th in passing EPA per play. Running, they're still 32nd EPA per play. Some Joey Scrambles help with that. But you look at their full offense and it's oh, hey, this is a really good offense. They're good third down and fourth down success. They're top 25, I believe. They're, really good at converting, in the red zone or whatnot. But it's just been the damn turnovers.
Yeah, this is one where, especially again, not that we're going to run through the end of our schedule, but New Mexico State, at Florida, Vanderbilt, this offense, as long as people are still focused, they're absolutely going to continue to score. And so the overall season numbers are going to look, I think, pretty darn good for this team. We're going to be a top 20 offense, I think, by most metrics that we care about. And so an 85 is probably completely unfair. But again, the games that pull it down are Oklahoma, where we gave away points, Alabama, where we gave away points, and then Mississippi State, where we essentially gave away points by giving them the ball in certain spots. And so it's not been a question of scheme and production. We've been very happy with that stuff. But I think before the season, we just we had our season long keys that we talked about. More dynamism in the scheme. We need to move people around a little bit more. We need a more dynamic run game. We don't need to rely on the most boring screen game ever. We've seen all that. We just forgot to say don't throw touchdowns to the other team.
I mean, execution. It's
Yeah.
simply execution. When you think about the 3 games as we review what we did with the defense, 5-yard penalty with 7 seconds to go, instead of a 38-yarder, you get a 43-yarder. Gilbert misses it, and you can't set him up in the middle because Heupel's freaked out. Then against Alabama, maybe the worst red zone play in the history of the program, 14-point swing with a whatever you want to say about the play call, whatever. Bad
Result is a
execution.
result.
Bad execution there. And then against Oklahoma, freshman makes a mistake, can't really hold him. Kitzelman gets drugged through the gates of hell and gets left there, and it's a 14-point swing. So it's like we said, the defense is bad. They haven't been good enough. The offense has been really good, but you kind of look at the blame game for the losses. It's like I actually put more on the offense. I think in every game, the offense is graded lower than the defense because the defense hasn't been a disaster in the losses overall. Maybe Georgia, you could say they were. Like they gave up a ton of points and a ton of yards in that game. But it's just the turnovers. Like this offense, like top 15 overall, basically by advanced metrics. That should get you an A grade in FBS football. But then you put in the turnovers, and it's like I can maybe throw in an 89 instead of an 87. But it's so frustrating that they get the wide receivers and the offensive line, the passing game fixed. And it's like, could Dylan Sampson have come back? Like,
I know.
could we have had him one more year? What does that do for the program? Because even though Deshaun Bishop has played well, it's not the same. And drops too. I think we got to mention some really unfortunate drops as well this year.
Yeah, just again, like you said, very simple execution stuff, not the dynamism of the scheme, just simple execution stuff. And, I do wonder, and not even from like a torturing myself place, but I just wonder just what taste would be in our mouth. Same record, same results. We don't manage to win those games, whatever. But just if we just like happen to shove the guy out of bounds in the Alabama game and he doesn't return it for a touchdown, or if someone just falls on the ball, like R. Mason Thomas just falls on the ball instead of going, nuclear. Like, I just wonder, again, same results. If we would just be like, I think we'd be
a little more gracious.
Yeah, just a little bit more like you win some, you lose some, as opposed to like these flash moments that are like, yeah, that's exactly how you win some, you lose some right there, that play.
Right. Well, I think, too, we got to grade it a little on curve. This is Heupel's baby, right? I think if you talk to Josh privately, he'd tell you he's not fully satisfied with what the offense has done. I think he'll say, I'm happy with what we've put on the field, but we have not been good enough to win enough games. So it's a little bit graded here. If we were Auburn and had these numbers, it's a 99, right?
Yes.
Like, oh my God, I can't believe we have this offense. It's the best offense we've had since 2013. Like, yeah, that's a 99. But Tennessee, there's a standard that is set, especially off those first 2 years where, I think for a lot of people, this is an A. For us, it's not because of how the program is set up, and maybe defensively for Alabama, these numbers are an F. For us, D plus C minus, right?
Honestly.
So it matters in the eye of the beholder, but I should give credit to Heupel and Halsley for changing. Like, I think whatever happens this year, whether it's 7-5 or 9-3, it should be a credit to those two guys for willing to change their offensive system, because this is not the Tennessee offense from 2022. And it's been very successful with, God bless him, a quarterback that's not going to sniff an NFL snap in a regular season game.
He's
and
a great
4 new
dude.
offensive linemen.
Great story, great dude. There's chances to have more talent at the position. And I love Joey. Love him. The question I have, we talked about, like, and this is not throwing the talent on the season. This is purely just, listen, we're coming off a bye. It's New Mexico State. We're thinking a little bit about the offseason. We talked about it with the defense, what the portal process might look like. Talk about trying to predict something hilarious. But do you think we wind up, I'll just go ahead and ask it. First game of the season next year, is it a quarterback that is on Tennessee's roster right now starting, or is it a transfer?
Can you ask me after New Mexico State if George takes second string snaps?
I think that's fair. Or just like how the
Because
season ends or who plays in the bowl game, that kind of thing.
That's the thing. If George gets second string snaps, as it seems like Price has hinted that
that's your guy.
Austin Price from VolQuest has said Merklinger is not going to be in the program next year. If the staff's like, hey, Joey, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. But we're going to need you to pull a Joe Milton and prepare for the NFL, which Milton got drafted. So I guess that helped. And they play George in the bowl game, then I'm willing to say like that points to me that they believe in George. If Merck's taking second string snaps and Joey plays the bowl game, that tells me they're looking at the transfer portal.
Yep.
So I'm taking the cheap answer. I honestly don't know. My heart is telling me George is going to get a chance, but they have to bring in somebody because if Mark leaves, they're only going to have 2 scholarship quarterbacks. That's just not feasible.
And one of them would be a freshman that has been injured all year.
Who's been injured all year, who I think finally played last week in the state
playoffs. He's a dude, but it's like, that's just a hard ask.
They need a year. And then the thing on him is like, hey, he's raw. He's probably going to need a year anyway. So I think we might have the answer after Saturday. If they're up 35-3 at halftime and McIntyre plays the entire second half, that might tell us what they think, because the reports are that Max really impressed them. But again, I'd like to see too, if they were like, hey, like not forfeiting the season, but I have full confidence since he could run the ball 60 times and win this game against New Mexico State.
Oh yeah.
If like they were like, hey, Joey's got a bum shoulder or whatever, or Joey's ribs are acting up or whatnot, and they were like, we're playing Merklinger and McIntyre, I actually wouldn't have a problem with that. I would not do that for Florida or Vanderbilt.
Please God, no.
No. But I just would like to see that, because Mark's been the second string. When Joey got hurt in the Bama game, I believe Merklinger was taking the snaps on the side. So even though Price is saying Merklinger is leaving the program, McIntyre hasn't won the backup job based off the reports we have. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. And McIntyre seems like a guy that might hang around because he's a Tennessee kid. He grew up a Vol fan, so that could play a factor into it. But I think we'll get more of an answer in a month.
Yeah, again, I this is not the path I like to take, but I do have a couple of ideas from the portal that I won't think about right now. We'll do that at the end of the season, but I have a couple cooking that would just be interesting, is all I'll say. Like, as in, I could see it happening. I could see it working, not necessarily happening. I could see it working. And so if we think we learn a little bit more over the next few weeks, we'll cook on that a little bit. And just think about what it could look like. I think we're in the position where we have to, even if we're excited about Phase On. So, that's the world we live in now, like we've said. In the interest of lifting our spirits a little bit, and again, I like reviewing these game scores, and I like kind of seeing where we've sat with stuff. But we had a fun idea, and especially one that makes sense heading out of the bye week before New Mexico State. There's only so much to preview with a team like that. And so this is with an eye towards Thanksgiving, with an eye towards the backyard football games that we all, had a great time playing growing up, whatever cousin you matched up with. We are going to do our own backyard football draft. And this is essentially drafting a 7-on-7 team. And the idea is that you need a quarterback, you need a running back, you need some interior guys, you need 2 linemen. And there's pretty loose definitions on what that means. You need a flex position, which is like H-back hybrid linebacker type. And then I just started thinking of my skill guys, like wide receiver skill guys. And so who's the guy who's going to get the reverse, scores the game-winning touchdown in the backyard football game. And so we're doing this now with current players, and there's no rules around who you can and can't take. There's no rules around it has to be of all, it can't be of all, that kind of thing. And then we're also going to probably do it in the off season with a little bit kind of wider time frame and thinking about actually drafting an 11-on-11 team. But this is kind of our first foray into it. And again, this is just something we cooked up, truly thinking about, okay, it's 48 degrees outside. the turkey's going to cook a little bit longer. Let's get out there and, let's play a game, and a two-hand touch turns into tackle, and then somebody starts crying, and you run inside and start eating. And so we're going to start this draft. We're going to go 7 picks each, just alternating, nothing complicated. And Zach, I'll kick it to you. Who is your first pick? Who are you starting with?
I have to take Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, dang it.
Yeah, I just have to. He's the most explosive player in college football. I know with his size, he can play both ways, so I had to take him.
I think for something like this, if it really is just like we're heading to the backyard, who's the person you'd least want to see on the other side? Jeremiah Love's the answer.
Would you take him in the top 10?
I probably wouldn't, but I also wouldn't have taken GT that high. And
I
so,
would not have taken GT that high.
Yeah.
So.
And so I love him, but the way you actually get to love him instead of questioning the pick is to take him at 16. Right. And that won't happen. People will forget that because he's going to test like a madman.
Yes, he will.
I will take my first pick. I'm going to take Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, you kind of had to.
Call me a homer. I think it's the right pick regardless. But I also was kind of hoping to get to take him, but I actually think I can say this one with no homerism. It's Jeremiah Smith. Like,
right.
Who's guarding him? Mike?
Yeah,
are we shifting this around?
Snake. Yeah, I'm gonna let you do it.
I'm wondering if I go for harder head here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have more depth at another position. And so I'm going to take, and this is where I think you could accuse me of being a homer, I'm going to take rivalries.
I mean, he's going to be a top 5 pick, so it's kind of hard not to.
When I think about this is purely that, like, as soon as we started dreaming up this roster, and I was like, you know what, we just need a flex position. I will say all of my thoughts the first few times thinking about this was, okay, just give me the fastest guy who can play skill position or flex, and I'll run around. And I was like, hold on a second. Eventually I will have to stop someone. And so, like, I trust Arvel Reese to do whatever he wants to do defensively in this game. And so I've got the 6'3", 256, whatever he is, linebacker who's flying all over the place.
So thinking in my 7-on-7 game, we're allowing a pass rush. We're not one of those West Coast Elite 11 camps that the liberals have taken over. We're allowing a pass rush. So I'm taking Ruben Payne Jr.
Gosh, he's on my list.
And I'm going to play him at tight end. I know he's athletic enough. He can absolutely do it. And then I think I'm going to take Caleb Downs. I'll take 2 defensive players.
Oh, he's on my list too.
So kind of crazy 3 Ohio State players, but that's
why they're doing what they're doing, I guess.
That's why they're the number 1 team in the country.
I will say my top 4, just big board. Like, if I were just doing this and I got to the pick of the litter, was Smith, Reese, Love, Payne.
Yeah.
And we hadn't talked about this at all. And so we landed in similar places when you were just thinking about these types of guys out there doing their thing. Let me see where I want to go. I'm going to take Byron Brown.
Okay. I like it.
I had a couple options at quarterback, and I think we should review some of them as we go. And then we'll see kind of where you end up. I can only take one quarterback, so you can kind of wait on that position now. I had a couple other names.
I will say we had the same idea.
Okay.
I will say that for my quarterback pick.
Interesting.
And
do I have another one?
Yeah, it's you.
Huh. Okay, so what do we have covered? I've got a skill position. I've got a flex position. I've got a quarterback. Let's think. There's a lot of directions you could go here. I think I'm going to take another wide receiver, and this is specifically because I think he would be good in this type of game. I'm taking Cooper Barkate from Duke.
Oh,
who was there's a lot of other names you could do, and I have a couple other written down that I easily could have argued would be kind of a better pick there in the grand scheme of things. But if we're talking backyard football, he's got some run after the catch. He's done nothing but improve at each stop he's been at. He's had a couple monster games this year at Duke and really been a focal point of that offense. Fun name if you haven't gotten to watch Duke much this year. So kind of a shout out, but also I think he fits in this type of game really well.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take, let's see who I want to take. I'm going to take Justin Haynes.
Okay.
With that, and first off, of course, Michigan, but that home run threat, good body type, so I know he can play both sides. So that's who I'm going to take. And then, I'm going to go, let's see here. I'm going to take Brazel as my other wide receiver.
So if I had not taken Barcade, it would have been Brazel.
6'5", I can high point it, especially on 7-7. That's kind of important. And he's fluid enough. I could just put him as a deep safety if I need to. So I'm going to take Brazel at my wide receiver spot.
Because you did that, and you're you're running, or do you have another one?
No, I took Haynes and Brazel, so too.
Because you did that, you're kind of shifting my strategy a little bit, and I think I have to do this. I'm going to take a little bit of leeway here, and I'm going to draft healthy Jermod McCoy. I'm allowing it because it's just been a bummer of a year not having him on there, and he was so fun last year. And again, I really hope he's kind of back in action, heading towards maybe the end of the season, but really testing time and draft time for him. But if you're gonna have Brazel out there, I can't have Cooper Barcade guarding Chris Brazel in the 7-on-7
That's
game.
fair. That's fair. Your next pick.
My next pick. So this is my last pick. No, I've got one more after this. Okay. I need a running back type, and I need potentially like a line type. My running back type is going to be two names I'm shifting between. One's really fun, one's probably better. I'm going defense. I'm taking Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech.
Okay.
Who I think was originally recruited as a quarterback at Virginia. And maybe even portaled as a quarterback to Texas Tech, but has since become a kind of a maniac at linebacker. And so I trust him to be on both sides of the ball. I think he could even play some quarterback if I needed him to. And I'll share my other possible pick if you don't end up taking him.
So my quarterback, because this is 7-on-7, I took Lenore Sellers.
Norris, okay.
Because I know with his athleticism, I can line him up against somebody, or he could play linebacker for me, whatever.
And be a problem.
Might be the best option. Right. And then my lineman's going to be, I want to take CJ Allen, but I don't think he's big enough as a lineman. So I'm going to take LT Overton.
Okay. And then my last pick is going to be a lineman as well. And I'm taking David Sanders Jr. and this is truly like if we got to, stake a claim on one guy and have him next year as well. But we talk about an athlete. We know he can be out there in space. He's flashed already, and he's been solid already. And so
you could have taken Hurd.
Yeah, could have taken Hurd. And honestly, either one of those guys seemed like they'd actually be fun to do this with. And so I was baking that in a little bit as well. Brazel seems like he'd be fun to do this with, and so like a good squad. Are there any that you were like this close to taking and they just didn't quite make the cut?
Eli Stowers was right up on my list. Him and CJ Allen would probably have been my there for 8th, and Zachariah Branch was considered as well.
Ooh, that's a good one. I didn't even have him listed. That's a really good one. If I'd gone offense instead of Jacob Rodriguez, if I had said I want another kind of skill guy, I would have taken Hollywood Smothers from NC State, having a huge year. And then I thought
Justin Jolly on my list too.
Okay, he's good. And then the other kind of linebacker type I had was Colin Simmons. And then the quarterback I thought you were going to take was Chambliss from Ole Miss.
Thought about it. Sellers
similar type of thing. Yeah.
Sellers is such a freak athlete. That's kind of why I wanted him on my team. He's like the perfect NFL street player.
the path for me to take Byram was I thought about Haynes King,
Mm-hmm.
and then I didn't realize
Also on my
how
list.
big Byram Brown was.
He's a monster.
And so I was like, holy cow, if I really just suddenly actually do need some physicality, I trust him more than Haynes King, or my other name was Blake Horvath, but he's very small.
Right.
Would I say
Byron
that
Brown have
within 100
eligibility
yards of
next
him?
year?
No, I would not.
Does Byron Brown have eligibility next year?
I
don't
don't
think
know.
he does. I'm pretty sure he doesn't, but
There's
that
no
would
way,
be
right?
I'm like 98% sure he's not. I think he's been goalless since 2022,
Yeah,
or 2023. Gotcha.
He's lighting it up a little bit too.
All right.
I think we wound up in. I'm going to read the teams real quick.
Yep.
Yours is good. Yours is Jeremiah Love, Reuben Bain Jr., Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes, Chris Brazel, Lenore Sellers, LT Overton. Got to be happy with that.
That's a damn good team.
Mine is Jeremiah Smith, Arvell Reese, Byron Brown, Cooper Barkate, Javon McCoy, Jacob Rodriguez, and David Sanders Jr.
It's a fun team.
I think on paper yours is ahead of mine, but
yours is more fun though.
The Byram,
you have Sanders and McCoy.
Yeah. The Byram of it all would be like, I need him to be the X factor.
Right.
I also, this is so funny. It took me 2 weeks ago that I realized that Josh Downs and Caleb Downs were brothers.
I think I did know that, but it was not on the forefront of my brain.
I'll also say this, as like you and I are kind of rapidly moving toward another Ohio State Michigan game that is going to really matter. Justice Haynes is a dog.
He is. He's excellent.
That's a real thing.
If he had a coach that knew more than a Tecmo Bowl offense, he would probably be a Heisman front runner. But Sharon Moore has 6 plays. So
God, Sharon Moore's running that NFL Blitz playbook. He just doesn't know how to. He doesn't
no,
know
it's
how to,
Tecmo Bowl. I think NFL Blitz. I was
going to say
he's 15.
NFL Blitz,
like,
but he
Tecmo
doesn't.
Bowl has 6.
Yep, he doesn't know how to move to the other page of plays. He's got like the split backs, and that's it. Oh,
Speaking of coaching,
man, the carousel is carouseling. I don't even know. Here's where I'll start. I'll just go ahead and get my hot take out of the way. I think Lincoln Riley is going to be the next Giants coach.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're based on nothing. Based on
nothing.
Based on why not. But really I just am like, I was sniffing around for what made the most sense. And I don't know, again, like they could hire Joe Brady next week, but Joe Brady would be the same path as the guy they just fired. And so I don't know if I really think that. I've heard some chatter that it's like, why not get a defensive guy? Why not instill some like more of a foundation? I don't really know who that would be right now. Spags is not really going to go there, I think, and he's also older. I don't know. I just know Riley's got to be itching to do something. And
well, now there's this private equity problem where there are USC fans who are like, are we going to have to be an independent because we're not going to accept this deal with the private equity? So it's like Lincoln, who got blindsided by going to the Big Ten. That was not what he was told. He's kind of said that publicly. Could be looking on the way out. But the thing that kind of caught my attention, who the hell is LSU going to hire if it's not Kiffin? Because Auburn seems to be moving quickly on Summerall.
Which they totally should.
Absolutely. And Arkansas, there was Twitter reports that were not confirmed, and it's silly season, but there was a lot of Franklin to Arkansas traction, which is what I kind of brought in Tim Banks. And if you're LSU, and look, I'm not saying Brian Kelly deserved to keep his job, although apparently he was not fired. They just told him.
Gosh,
You kind of read what they said. They're like, hey, could you just go home till we figure out how we're going to pay you? You have to hit a home run.
Oh, yeah.
And I like Summerall. I think he's got a bright future. I don't know if that's going to quantify as a home run.
That's it could, I don't know if he's quite this good, but it could be a little bit like Elko. where it's actually the right hire, but it's not sexy at all.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great comparison.
But again, like, it could easily not be that.
Like, you can't fire Kelly and then go get Glenn Schumann.
No.
That's a disaster.
By the way, and this is no shade. Like, all these guys are pretty dang good at what they do, like, especially as coordinators and position coaches. There's absolutely nothing that should lead anyone to believe that Schumann is the answer. He seems like the name I've seen the most of, like, why don't we go get this guy? And I'm like, based on what?
And I think, like, Schumann can succeed. I just don't know if you want to put him in a situation at Auburn or LSU or Florida.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're kind of really, Kirby was such an anomaly, and so was Lanning, where they had been there a long time. Like, people forget Kirby was there for 8 years at Bama as the DC. I think it ended up being 9. Might have been 9. Lanning was, besides Kirby, for 6 years, I think. So, and those are the anomalies. Like, that usually doesn't happen. We tried that. Tennessee tried, with Pruitt. So, I'm really fascinated if LSU can't get Kiffin, what the move is.
I mean, if you're Auburn right now, if you move on Summerall or you move on Golesh, and then that, I mean, you kind of hired like not the sexiest name in the world, but a pretty darn good coach.
Right.
You really do put LSU in this position where, like, go get your dude. And if it works out, thumbs up to you. But if you're suddenly on the hunt and Kiffin does just get a massive extension, you're really hurting at that point.
Well, and here's the other thing. With the spring portal being dismantled, this has changed everything about college football because the portal starts on January 2nd. You got to have a guy, and early signing period is December 19th or whatever it is, third Wednesday in December, whatever. You got to get a guy in there. So if you're LSU and Kiffin makes the playoffs, and what's funny is if he doesn't make the playoffs, he becomes a less attractive candidate. But if he makes the playoffs, is he going to be willing to leave Ole Miss to take the LSU job in the middle of a playoff run? I'll never put anything past Lane. That would shock me. But and then at that point, is it worth the wait? Probably is. But even still, if they're in the Final Four and he's at Ole Miss and then everyone's going to know too. Like if LSU hasn't hired a coach on January 4th and Kiffin's still in the playoffs, everyone's going to be like, oh, they're waiting on Kiffin.
And that's
which causes a whole set of problems.
His entire presser is going to be about that.
Yes.
He's going to handle that well for like 3 days, and then on the 4th and 5th day, he's going to lose his mind.
He's going to start tweeting at Feinbaum.
I don't know. It's LSU has put themselves in a position. I hate Brian Kelly. I'm fine moving on from him. But LSU has put themselves in a position where they really do have to nail it. And there's really 2 names maybe that do that, at least for me.
I can't even think what happens if it's not Kiffin or Summerall. I don't even know. Like then you start talking about like Golesh
or Riley, and you're really just
Riley.
You're just cringing and looking the other way and offering him that job,
which Riley didn't want it the first time.
Yeah.
Or I mean, do you start getting desperate? Like, would Joey McGuire take it? Like, could we just recruit? Could we do Ed Orgeron 2.0? Hire a great OC and just let Joey McGuire do his recruiting transfer portal stuff. Like that's kind of where you start getting at, like Dave Aranda, like who's kind of on the hot seat at Baylor. Like I don't know if that would satisfy the fan base, but maybe you could talk yourself into that. It's a fascinating situation, and Penn State's kind of interesting too. I mean, this is going to be crazy. I think we're going to see. I don't think it's going to get 2022 levels where you're like, oh my God, Brian Kelly's at LSU. Oh my God, Lincoln Riley's at Auburn. But I think we're going to get I think there's going to be some programs really disappointed.
Yeah, I think it could be like things roughly stay in what was roughly predicted. Like you get something like Golesh moves, you get something like Silverfield to Arkansas, like just those ones where it's like, oh, instead of this getting absolutely insane, it kind of moved in a way that we expected it to. But that's if things go smoothly with Penn State and LSU hires, and we have no idea what those are going to be. And then, I mean, at this point, I'm pretty confident James Franklin's going to be working next year.
Yes, he will be.
And then, you and I talked earlier in the season, and I had Florida up there with, and I even think I had them ahead of the Penn State job. I don't know. I think I'm backtracking on that. The Florida job I think just how I've experienced Florida has them as like the talent pool and all this different stuff, but I don't know. I mean, there's some churn there.
Also does not have the excuse me. They do not have the president in where they're still on an interim. Strickland, I'm shocked they're letting him make this hire. Honestly, like they've kind of had some internal stuff with Todd Golden. I guess that flew over, whatever, but like they got to get it right. So I don't know. And if you look at some other schools, how it's affecting them, Wisconsin's bringing back Fickle. And that's a guy who probably doesn't deserve to keep his job, despite the fact they won last week. But it's the money and it's the who are we going to get factor that teams are really considering, where it's like, hey, Luke Fickle, we're better off giving him another year.
With more investment.
With more investment and some different coaching or whatever, than where it used to be like you do not want to be a year too late. Where now it's completely changed.
Wisconsin football is at a point where like Wisconsin football alums were pretending the program didn't exist.
Right.
And now they're like backing because they're like, well, what else are we going to do? Hire Colin Klein and see how I don't know.
Yeah. Or like Michigan State with Johnson Smith. Like that's a guy who's not done well. I actually really thought that was a great hire at the time. He's not done well. Well, they're still in the middle of the Mel Tucker buyout. They are going to be the 8th best job open. So they're not going to be a prime spot for somebody. And, not only that, you have to consider the transfer portal. If you make that decision, everything happens on the 2nd and players get to leave early and stuff. So it just, with how the schedule has changed and with how college football has changed, it's really affecting decisions everywhere where, I mean, Maryland should fire Mike Loxley. They haven't pulled the trigger yet. Who are they going to get? Like, I mean, it's legitimate questions. I think teams are going to have to start, or programs are going to have to start looking in different ways. You're going to have to start looking at like D2 coaches and see, like, can we find our Kurt Signetti? Do we find a super duper charismatic recruiter who can keep portal kids, who can rally the fan base to drum up interest and stuff like that? A wide receivers coach that wouldn't get a job 10 years ago like that. So it's crazy.
Well, and then honestly, maybe it does. I'll say 2 things. One, all the names that are like those just below the tier we're talking about, especially coordinators, it's going to be the same weird timeline. Like Brian Hartline is going to be coaching in the playoffs, barring, them fumbling the whole thing. And then whoever Indiana's assistants are that are going to start to get mentioned are going to be coaching throughout the playoff. And so it's not a clean move given the timeline that you outlined. It is just a mess. And it's drawn out even more than ever to be a mess. Either you're abandoning that team at an earlier stage or you are waiting even longer and really hoping this is your guy. And oftentimes with those coordinators, it's such a coin flip. You know what Brian Hartline is really, really good at doing? He's really, really good at recruiting and coaching wide receivers and running the offense the way he runs it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what we have no idea if he's good at or not is coaching a football team.
And it's completely different. I mean, being a
head
coach of Penn State, guys, the thing is too, like, you're just not going to see these high-level coordinators take like group of 5 jobs anymore. Brian Hartline's not going to take a MAC job.
No,
because
that used to be the path.
Exactly. That used to be the path. It's just not going to happen anymore because it's, and now that there's real money being invested in players, boosters want better ROI. So if you're not doing your job in 4 years, Brian Kelly, you're going to get fired. Where maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's like, well, we did spend money on the coach, and he's trying to get his players still in, whatnot. So I think that's really fascinating.
The other thing that I think is gonna hopefully merge a little bit, like come the right direction a little bit. I think about a Fickle. I think about other ones where maybe they are like, if I'm a program right now, I'm looking at Bob Chesney and James Madison, not because I
Yep.
think he's Signetti, because Signetti seems pretty unique, but because he's building a program and he's built programs at really small places, and it's like, why not him compared to a Heartline? But the thing that needs to come with that, and the thing that is happening with Fickle, even though I absolutely would have been calling for Fickle's job, but the thing that can come with that is like, okay, we're hiring a guy like Chesney. This isn't a flash in the pan. This is going to require investment. This is going to require us actually thinking about someone who can build this program, not just hoping for the flash in the pan and churning through coordinators until you hit on one. And so I would like to see it come to a place where it's like, how much I hate to give this guy props, but where you actually find another Dabo or two, because these programs are like, what we're not going to do is we're not going to hit on Glenn Schumann and win in 2 years. We're going to hit on, it could be Glenn Schumann, but it's not, it could be anybody else too, where you actually build your program and you find the right mix of high school and portal and system that there's stability. Now, I'm sitting here talking about stability in the coaching realm and whether that's going to normalize, and we're going to have 30% of jobs open in 2 weeks. And so I don't really know what I'm saying here.
Well, and the other thing I think of like Jason Candle at Toledo, who's a good football coach, and he's 5-4 this year, but it's Toledo, right? Like, that's ebbs and flows and all that. If you're Penn State, like, that's not going to be your first, second, or third option. But at what point do you go, like, I know he can build a sustainable program.
Yep.
I know he coaches defense well. I know that, he's going to bring good fundamentals. Is it come to that point where are we just going to, like, is it more important to find guys that have established programs who maybe aren't top of the list or aren't at elite schools or aren't at like big Power 5? Yeah, you'll still have your Golishes who turn around programs in 3 years, but it might be a guy who's in. I mean, think about Jason Eck, who just took over New Mexico, beat UCLA, and like people are like, is he going to get a Power 4 job? Like, that never happened at these places. So I'm really curious if we see some of these lower level Power 4 schools like a UCLA, like an Arkansas, try and be a little more creative than we've seen in the past.
Yeah. And I think this is an unfair.
By creative, I'm not saying hire John Gruden, Arkansas.
Oh God, no. And yeah, genuinely like thoughtful, not creative, thoughtful. The comparison I make in my brain, and it's completely unfair to everyone involved because it's way downgrade for one part of the comparison and way too optimistic for the other part, is like right now, if you're an NFL team, the Giants are a bad example because they just had a bad experience with Dayball. But if you're someone else who's going to fire their coach, whatever, would you want Joe Brady or would you want John Harbaugh?
Right.
And I think a lot of fan bases, and especially when I think about college fan bases, I think a lot of them would actually say John Harbaugh is very boring. Give me Joe Brady and let's hope it hits. And it's like, that's objectively the wrong answer.
Right.
But the other one, you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to find the right guys. You're going to have to let it build. You're going to have to be okay with like good, clean, fundamental football that eventually builds towards 10 or 11 win seasons. Not, we had the number one offense in the league and we got some turnover luck and we made the playoffs year 2. But I people have a taste for Joe Brady more so than a John Harbaugh type, even if this is a rough parallel.
It's going to be really interesting because it feels like the NFL just keeps going more and more and more towards who's the best play caller. And college is going to start going more and more and more to the Dabo Swinney culture builders.
Yeah.
And that's going to be very fascinating to watch, where there used to be a good mix on both sides. Nowadays, it's really dividing, even though I think the NFL is kind of, there's been a couple like looking for Dan Campbell's and it just hasn't worked because there's only one. But as I wear my Lions jersey, but I think you're going to see more CEO types in college football than we've ever seen before.
Yeah, and again, like I was actually about to say this. If you're a CEO type who also happened to learn offense from Sean Payton, you get to go be Dan Campbell.
Yeah, that's true too.
Otherwise,
you still got to know football.
Yeah, like otherwise you're a CEO type that is kind of building a program, and people should. We got to learn to be patient, or we're going to be doing this every single day a year, and maybe we're just going to be doing it every single year. I don't know, but the Luke Fickell thing is like a sign in the right direction, even if they've been absolutely horrendous, and he probably should have gotten fired.
5-year rebuilds are done in college football. It's over. Like and you know what, Elko, I know Texas A&M did have a ton of talent when he took over. Guys like Elko kind of proved like you can do it. You know, Kurt Signetti has proven you can do it. Even Lane. I mean, Lane had immediate success at Ole Miss going into year 2, year 3. So it's no longer like, hey, we should give Butch a 5th year. Like that just isn't going to happen anymore. If you're not winning 10 games at some of these elite programs by year 3, you're done.
Yeah, we'll invest otherwise and keep churning.
Yep.
So, but I think some of the lower level programs might actually start to program build again. We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see.
Correct.
Quick check in with Tennessee basketball. They took down, I think, number 2 ranked North Florida Ospreys tonight. JP Estrella, 23-10, 6 offensive boards, not a single free throw, which seems interesting. But the props on 11 or 14 from the field, you know, routine win. Guys put up some numbers, and we'll keep tracking them as they go.
Nothing. I've not changed my thinking yet. Anything Tennessee basketball, other than Boswell, who did not play tonight, seems like an actual piece, which really gives them a chance. And I think Carey is not going to be much of a factor this year, like we were kind of hoping, which that's, you know, it's, I think, a fair trade in for what Tennessee needs positionally. Still think that's a top 15 team. Just hoping Met can be a little bit more comfortable with the shot. It's just not quite falling yet. But again, he was the most raw of all the top guys. So not panicking yet.
The last thing I'll ask heading into the weekend, do you think Alabama and Georgia take care of the Red River rivalry respectively, or do you think one of those teams pulls the upset?
I would be careful if I was Alabama. I think they're fine. I would be careful. And they're kind of due for a home loss. It's been a long time. Like
they have the longest streak in the country now.
Yeah, was it like 20 something?
Yep.
I think.
And they broke Georgia's.
Was their last home loss LSU in 19? No, that's too far, right?
It has to be more recent than that.
Who'd they lose to in 23? Texas in 23. That's what it was. Okay. They're kind of due for a home loss, but I don't know. I assume our Mason Thomas is not playing that game, so that should help them out a little bit. But Venables is going to scheme some stuff up, but I would be careful. I think Georgia's going to handle Texas. I don't think that will be an issue.
Wonder if that's a quarterback issue for Texas. I will say, I randomly wound up watching some highlights from last season earlier today. Watching Quinn Ewers run that offense and how different it looks is just a telling thing.
It's not just plug and play. It's not a video game.
Yeah. It's a really, it almost defies, like you have to rub your eyes and look again because it was so smooth and attacking every single part of the field with a guy who, frankly, is probably never going to start in the NFL.
Yep.
So
it's just not plug and play. And that's the thing, too, with transfer portals and stuff like this. Things change year to year. Sark's a genius one year. Could he be an NFL coach? And now Sark doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, gosh. Well, it's a good weekend of college football coming up. Tennessee should win handily, which is why we did not score predict. If we're at the point where we need to score predict that game, we got bigger problems. We'll check in next week. We're previewing the Swamp. I don't want to talk about it yet. That's where I'll leave it.
We'll get there. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you. I assume most of the people who are listening are subscribed, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, whatever you get your podcast. But if you don't, or you happen to find us on Twitter or a friend of a friend or whatnot, please subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. Just so that way we can kind of gauge our listeners and see what you guys want. We appreciate y'all. And go Vols.